In the 70s, a band I really I liked them then, and I like them to this day, had a single, I think it was a minor hit, that ran on a chorus of 4 chords or 4 notes, and it was an ascending. An A to B minor, C sharp minor, which is a very similar way of writing to those classic Thin Lizzy records, where you get full limits, sort of pop sensibilities, and then when you put on the launch guitars and the twin lead and Brian Downey and the drums, it turns into just something fantastic. But this was a chorus that had those, so a very sort of poppy chorus. But the same album, their first album, had a song that called Lovers and Fools, right? And Lovers and Fools had, right? And the band in question is the Rich Kids. And what I thought I'd do, there's not going to be much playing in this, you know. Hey, he's not playing. It's really, I thought I'd like to make a few videos about things that I think are neglected, you know. My favourite topic for conversation is like the great lost guitar players, you know, some of the greatest players of all time, you know, who are not really household names, Todd Sharp, Ray Gomez, Danny Johnson. You know, that kind of player that you think, to me, they would rank with like anyone, you know. And I guess it's only in recent years that Tom Bukovac's become like a household name. Timmy Pierce, isn't it? So, in 1977, the Rich Kids brought out this. Now, if this is like, oh yeah, I remember them, or you're not aware at all, stay tuned, because in the mid-70s, you'd had to be walking around in a daze to not figure out something's going to happen, you know, in London. And much like the Fleetwood Mac, John Mayall era, where if you read any of those autobiographies, you'll find that all these guys knew each other. You know, there seemed to be this coterie of friends that would include Steve Jones, based around Malcolm McLaren, Vivienne Westwood, Sex, Shop, Tony James, Mick Jones, and The Clash, Billy Idol. Billy Idol had, you know, him and Derrida in Generation X, and I believe Steve New from the Rich Kids actually played on the single version of Dancing With Myself, which you'll know is that one, right? I think that's Dancing With Myself. So you'd got all these people who formed into a whole bunch of bands, Pretenders, Damned, The Clash, and the Pistols, right? The Rich Kids were different because, as far as I know, there's only one album. This album that I listened to, that I found after much searching, is a 23-track compilation. So I think you've pretty much got everything. You've got the whole of the album. The album's called Ghosts of Princes and Towers, more of which in a minute. And it's got some live stuff, and I guess it's got some stuff that would have been on another album that never got released. And I don't know if this is a cliche, but the thinking about the Rich Kids is that on one hand you had the sort of punk pop guys, which would be Glenn Matlock, who'd been in the Pistols, and therefore had an open door at EMI. You know, if you can come up with a band, we will sign you. So you got Glenn Matlock and a guitarist called Steve New, who was involved with the Sex Pistols when he was only 15, and I believe he was only 17 when he was in the Rich Kids. On the other side, you had Midge Ure, who'd been in Salvation and had played the School of Hard Knocks, morphed into Slick, who were like the forerunner of a boy band, but with instruments. And Midge Ure and Rusty Egan went off to do Visage and then Ultravox. So you've kind of got the traditional New York Dolls, Small Faces, Who side on one side, and the other side being something new's coming. You know, the technology's changing. But obviously, Midge Ure, with his background, had a foot in both camps, I'm guessing. Going by the live stuff. For guitar fans, although I have no idea what Steve New is playing on the Top of the Pops clip of Rich Kids, it looks like it looks like someone found, you know, in a junk shop or something. But if you look at the live stuff, Steve New appeared to be playing a black Les Paul Custom and a double cut Junior. Right? Midshare had the Yamaha SG2000. They had a great sort of raunch, again harking back to the Dolls, New York Dolls guitar sound. And when the album came out, I think there was a massive buzz. You know that this band is going to be enormous. And there may be a number of reasons why they weren't as enormous as was touted. One of them, and I could be wrong on this, was I think in some quarters they were viewed with some suspicion. You know, that you know, Midshare was a successful professional musician. You know, even at that young age, with a lot behind him, and was jumping on the power punk bandwagon. And I don't believe that for a second. I think when they did the Rich Kids, it was wholehearted. Steve New in later life, he's sadly no longer with us. Steve New in later life became Stella Nova. It's the same person. And there was a bit of a buzz about this guy as well, this teenage guitar whiz. So you've got Midge and Steve New. And Glenn Matlock, the Beatles loving songwriter from the Sex Pistols. So there's a lot going on in this band, Rusty Egan on the drums. And they brought out this album there. As I said, the single was called Ghosts of Princes and Towers. And it ran on this very poppy, that chorus. And they then put out a song called Rich Kids. And Rich Kids is kind of like a song that is declaring that it is an anthem before it's an anthem. But when you listen to it now, it could have been. It could have been a jukebox favourite for the next 20, 30 years. Rich Kids is great. Anyway, for whatever reasons, the band went their different ways. They all did different things. I saw Glenn Matlock just before COVID playing in Edinburgh, and on guitar he had one of my favourites, Earl Slick. It was great. Midshare, obviously you know about, it's had a fantastic long career. So, what was it about the Rich Kids that caused this buzz but alienated some people? As I say, I think there was a feeling that they'd seen the way the wind was blowing, but if you're talking about a 17-year-old kid, Steve knew it. I don't think that's possible. And I think Glenn Matlock just wanted to be in the band, writing good songs and playing live. Midge, you're the same. Around that time, there wasn't a lot of music on TV. And not to go all woe is me, I didn't have a television. I didn't own a television until I was about 26 or 27. So I'd go into work, and it was like a dagger in your heart, because someone would say, that pop group you like was on TV last night, and I'd sort of quiz them mercilessly. Who, what pop group, who is it, who was it? And one time somebody said to me, I think they were called the Wishbone Ash, who at that time were my favourite band by a million miles. And at the time I was playing amateur football, and one of the guys in the football team says, this guy in the Wishbone Ash, he puts both hands on the fingerboard. And in a kind of knowing stupidity, I said, no, you can't do that. That's not possible. And it was Baby Come In From The Rain, obviously, that Laurie goes and plays all that stuff, right? Which is pretty unheard of then, although, ironically, I'd seen Rory Gallagher the year before, who'd come back from touring in America. And if you remember, if this rings a bell, Rory used to play this stuff that was like... It was very different to what came later with Van Halen. And I mentioned earlier Danny Johnson, who's doing all that stuff, 75, 76. Anyway, it's not competition. But one time, I went to work, and everyone was talking about, they'd seen Top of the Pops, and there's a band called the Rich Kids, and they all said, oh, you would like this, it's like it's guitar, but it's got a guitar solo and stuff. And one of my friends, Colin, who subsequently moved to Holland. I'm sorry for all this trivia about my life, but I'm trying to stick to the point. Said to me, and I'll never forget it, he says, I don't know what like it is, but whatever it is, Steve knew has got it. This kid's got something special. And again, I hadn't seen the Rich Kids on Top of the Pops. I've only seen it on YouTube recently. And my friend Colin said to me, by the way, there's a bit right at the end of this Rich Kids song that sounds exactly like Andy Powell, Your Hero from Wishbone Ash. And that sort of, piqued my interest as well. If you look at the live stuff, it would appear that Midge Ure played that guitar solo in Rich Kids that we'll get to in a different video. If you can find this album, and I've seen it online recently, and it seems to go for quite a lot of money. As does the debut album. It seems like it's got a table and glasses of wine, and it's called Ghost of Princes and Towers, which, as I mentioned earlier, is that one, right? It's well worth listening to. If you watch someone on YouTube, they obviously were a fantastic band, but for whatever reasons, maybe some that I've touched on, they didn't become the big band that a lot of people thought they would. One of my friends contacted me yesterday online and said he saw them live, because I put a thing online saying, anyone remember this band, the Rich Kids? Better still, did anyone see them live? One of my friends contacted me and said, yeah, they were the second band I saw live. They were fantastic. Both guitar players were great. Steve knew and Midge Ure. Now, before we go, and the purpose is really is in the hope that you might go and listen to their stuff and go, wow, I really like that. It's a great blend of that kind of power pop that David Johansen did, or Cheap Trick, or the Raspberries, or latterly Enough's Enough. But there appears to be another thing that's said about the Rich Kids all the time, and it is that, as I say, it's not this album's compilation. When the album came out, there was a lot of criticism along the lines of it's too muddy. It just sounds like a mush, and it does sound dense, but I tend to pay far more attention to the songs and how they're played and what's going on. I mean, I can tell you, for example, the guitar sounds in that are really good. Guitar sounds are great from Midge Ure and Steve New. So the production wouldn't put me off too much. However, around the same time, exactly the same criticism was being made about this, the Heartbreakers, LAMF, which to this day is like, it's a fantastic album, ruined by the production. And latter times, people started to say it wasn't the production at all, because that's a remaster, by the way. Lamf is great, that's another album that everyone should have. It was the mastering when the sound went wrong, but for me, I don't think the sound went wrong. But that was a criticism of the Rich Kids. Now, that's the album that the Rich Kids remind me of the most. Johnny Thunders So Alone, and there is a kind of crossover, I think, with Steve New and JT, Johnny Thunders. Now, the strange thing about all this criticism of the production on the Rich Kids album is it was by Mick Ronson, who'd produced Transformer for Lou Reed, which has got to go down as one of the best productions I can think of. And he also, it's not as well known, but Mick Ronson produced and played on Night Out for Ellen Foley. First of all, it's one of the best sounding albums I've ever heard. It's like Hunter Ronson, it's like that band with Ellen Foley singing. Everything's fantastic. The guitar sound that Mick Ronson got on Night Out, if you're a fan of the electric guitar, you could listen to Ellen Foley's album Night Out, particularly the title song or the Stones cover Stupid Girl, and Mick Ronson's guitar sound is incredible, and his production, as I say, is huge, massive Cecil B. DeMille production. Mick Ronson produced that, and at one point he played on stage with the band, as did Ian McLagan, keyboardist, again sadly no longer with us from the Faces. Now, if that's not supergroup, I don't know what is. So maybe the sound of the album maybe gossip and word spread, oh, you know, the album doesn't sound too good, maybe that put people off. Anyway, they split up not long after that anyway. So there you go. One of the great lost bands who, in my book, would be Missing Persons, T-Ride, Girl, Wild Horses, the Archangels, who I know have a massive cult following. And these are the bands that the first time you either heard or saw them, you know, you would say that band's going to be enormous. And I've tended to get it wrong, you know, something like 98, probably 99 times out of 100. That's the story of the Rich Kids. So this video is really just to suggest, if you like, you know, a specific type of power pop, raunch, rock, guitar, good songs, singing's great, the guitar playing, as I say, is great. That might be the sort of band that you could investigate. And you know, I think I'll do more videos on great. And I think there's no real point in doing a video of me talking about, you know, the history of Led Zeppelin. Who wants to see that? And there are 100. But there's not much about the Rich Kids. To conclude, there was a reunion about 2017, I think, which I would have loved to have seen live. And as I say, Stephen Hughes no longer with us. It was Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet. And again, there's a kind of connection, because Gary Kemp is well known as a massive Mick Ronson fan. So aside from that reunion that I just mentioned, that's the story of the Rich Kids. Two fantastic singles, Ghosts of Princes and Towers. Probably the only hit single inspired by a 15th century story, and the title track Rich Kids, which, as I said, is has got anthem written all over it. So I'm going to do a video on Rich Kids, because there's tons and tons of guitar in it, including the bit that my friend said to me however many, 45 years ago. You know, it sounds exactly like Andy Powell. So I'll do that. That's it. That's my take on the Rich Kids. Whatever happened to the Rich Kids? Absolutely fabulous band.